The hunting shotgun is another Fallout New Vegas classic, an iconic weapon for the Fallout franchise, and a very necessary one at that. What says Apocalypse more than a pump-action shotgun like the Remington 870? I mean, geez, the 870 is probably one of the most common weapons in the world. Probably. I have no idea if that's true. Somehow, though, the pump action has only appeared in Bethesda titles in Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 76 if you count that, but I think it is a huge disservice to Fallout fans for not having any form of pump action shotgun in Fallout 4, even something custom or different or unique. But we didn't get a pump action whatsoever, just the double barrel and the combat shotgun. So we decided to make one ourselves. Now I know we did make a police shotgun, which was essentially a Remington 870, specifically the Wangmaster, or Wingmaster IRL, but we wanted to make the iconic, the classic hunting shotgun with all the bells and whistles featured in New Vegas, and of course much, much more. Now, there are of course a handful of pump action mods on the Fallout 4 Nexus already, including a handful of Remington 870s, and there's even one that's already called the hunting shotgun, of course the amazing work from Deadpool 2099. But why would you want to use our mod? The answer is, it's really up to you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that mine's better or try to act like I'm some mighty person on a pedestal saying that I make the best mods. All of these mods are up to user preference. If you like Deadpool's more, then use that. If you like ours more, then use it. It's going to have its own differences, its own advantages and disadvantages. It really just comes down to personal preference. Either way, I'm going to be showcasing everything in our mod so you get a really good look at it and determine if this is the right mod for you. But of course, there are other options out there in case you want to make a choice for something else. Don't get me wrong, Deadpool's is still an amazing option for a hunting shotgun if you're trying to get the New Vegas Classic into the game. The 870 just happens to be one of my favorite guns of all times, definitely one of my favorite shotguns, and so I really wanted to make my own. This, of course, is going to have the advantage of having the same sort of art style as the rest of my weapons, one that I try to make fit in the vanilla style of texturing as much as I can. This guy is going to come with the usual amount of customization and other features that you would see in one of our mods, including some brand new redesigned optics and accessories that are going to be appearing for the first time in this mod. They technically already have been back ported to some of our older mods, but you may know that we have some real-life optics that I've tried to recreate some of the retro options. We've redesigned a few of those, made some brand new ones, and even updated some old ones. So there are going to be a lot of new options here in this mod that we will be using from now on, as well as some new scopes too, some big scopes like the night vision and recon scope. Now let's talk about this thing for what it is as a mod. Of course, this weapon is going to come with custom animations, kinda necessary, that have been heavily modified by our wonderful Mac to add some new tube lengths for more reloads, as well as built-in tactical reload support, or bullet counted reload rather, that allows you to reload the correct amount of shells every time you need to reload. If you fire one shot, you're not going to be reloading the entire tube like vanilla. Tons and tons of attachments. Some are going to remind you of the classic attachments from New Vegas. Some are going to be a little bit more our style for the higher end attachments when you upgrade this thing into its late game attachment sets. There are going to be custom sound effects that are actually going to be made out of real-life shotgun sounds. I did actually sample some sounds from my own personal shotgun for use in this mod, mainly because I wanted to see if we could do it, and surprisingly it did work out pretty dang well. There are some custom built-in loading screens, leveled-less integration, so you will be able to find this thing out in the world, and since it's a Remington 870, this thing spawns everywhere. Raiders, Gunners, Minutemen, Triggermen, Railroad, Trappers, and of course you can purchase it from vendors, all after level 10. Basically spawns on every single person except for the Brotherhood of Steel. I don't know why we did that. I think it should spawn on the Brotherhood of Steel as well. There's also a unique that can be found in the base version of this mod, and there is a second unique that you can grab as an optional file. Something a little new for us, but something I have talked about on the channel before. There is going to be a built-in unique that is just part of the 870, but if you are using our Commonwealth Weaponry Merchants mod, then there is an optional file that you can enable, which will add one more unique into the vendor lists for the Commonwealth Weaponry team, and it'll be sold over on Crazy Joe. So that's pretty cool, as a little bit of extra that you can have optionally. If you want more uniques, you can have them. If not, though, we're going to be doing probably one per mod from now on. we'll have more available as optional files. I think that's a fun way to have a nice balance so you don't flood your game with uniques, but for those who want them, or if there's a unique that you think is really cool, you can have it optionally. Now then, we have a lot to talk about, like stats, animations, attachments, and of course those uniques, so let's go ahead and hop in game and check those out. So for starters, of course, let's talk about the stats for this weapon. Here we have what I consider to be the pretty standard variant of the 870. It's not exactly how the pumps and stocks and things were named, but this is what I would consider to be the standard configuration. This thing has a base damage of 50, of course, mirroring that of the combat shotgun in the vanilla game. But of course, it's going to have the trade-off for being pump action and not mag-fed. Therefore, it will be spawning much earlier. It does use 12 gauge rounds, or shotgun shells if you're not using munitions, a fire rate of 6 because again it is pump action, a range of 197, an accuracy of 49, a weight of 11.4 pounds in this configuration, and a value of 82 caps. And of course these stats can all be modified thanks to the various attachments over at the weapons workbench, and there are various attachments. You can really kit this thing out to be pretty much any weapon you need so long as that weapon is pump action. Now let's talk animations. We have some very wonderful pump action animations, again heavily modified by Mac, and well, I'll let them speak for themselves. You, of course, get the wonderful spread of buckshot, but with some fine-tuned accuracy. We have some pretty narrow iron sights here, but those are changeable. Since they are mounted to the barrel, they do appear pretty small in-game due to the FOV, but you can modify them once again to something maybe a little bit more preferable to yourself. There are a handful of iron sight options, but also a handful of optics as well. And this thing has no problem taking out very small targets like that, or spreading it out to a lot of targets with just one shot. So I mean, I'm basically just explaining a shotgun here, but that is the benefit you get from this weapon. Now then, we do have two uniques to talk about, the first of which being the one that actually comes with the standard version of the mod, which we're looking at right here, known as the Super Duper Shotgun. It does 50% more damage to animals, and it may look and sound a little bit familiar to you, and that's because it is heavily inspired by Dinner Bell from Fallout New Vegas. We actually made our own custom camo as a smart material for Substance Painter, so we can reapply this in the future if we so please, but at the very least we have it here for a relatively decent recreation of the camo on Dinner Bell, with all of the New Vegas parts. That is the New Vegas style stock, New Vegas style pump, and the New Vegas style barrel for the hunting shotgun. Now, why didn't we just do Dinner Bell? We actually don't like recreating uniques from other games because the whole idea is that they're unique. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the New Vegas shotgun to be all the way over here, or at the very least, if we're going to recreate one, it doesn't make sense for a ton of uniques to make their way over to this one specific location across the country. So instead, we ran with the idea that this is sort of akin to a Walmart shotgun in real life, with the funny hunting camo, something that you could find in a pretty simple big box store, and so that's why it's called the Super Duper Shotgun. Theoretically, you might be able to find this thing at a Super Duper Mart in the right location, and it's also a play on the idea of the Doom Super Shotgun. It's just kind of a fun, punny name. Now, if you want to get your hands on this thing, this mod does require Far Harbor to function. That's just kind of the case when it comes to tube-fed guns, generally, because they do rely on the lever action as a base. So this thing actually is located in Far Harbor. I'll go ahead and show you where that is. So you may or may not know it, but over here on the map in Far Harbor, just to the west of the actual Far Harbor location, there is an unmarked Super Duper Mart. If you head down the street a little bit, you will see through the fog the wonderful little Super Duper Mart that has been taken over by some trappers. Now, if you head inside the structure right here and take a right, there is a shelf, and on the bottom shelf we have the Super Duper Shotgun.
Excellent.
Easy as that, but you are going to have to take a trip into the DLC to be able to access this. It is not a crazy late game shotgun, but it is a pretty good one. Now, I know that the reliance on Far Harbor might be a bummer to some people out there if you still don't have it this day and age, but it's something we need to actually have this kind of reload, so we might as well make more use out of it than that by having a unique here, as well as having the levelless injection on trappers as well. Now then, like I said, we do have one other unique available thanks to an optional file. When you first install this mod, you will be greeted with a faux mod, and it will ask you if you want to enable this ESP, but of course you will need the Commonwealth Weapon Merchants mod to have it function correctly. This is going to be known as the last word. The final shot of the magazine deals twice the normal damage. So the very last shot that you shoot will do a whole lot more, which does encourage using a smaller tube magazine. As you can see, this thing has a pretty different design from our standard hunting shotgun, and that's because it's equipped with Commonwealth weaponry furniture with a nice green and yellow paint job and a fancy scope to match, and it comes with slugs built into it. But if you want to get your hands on this thing, you're going to need to head over to our good friend, Crazy Joe. If you have the Commonwealth weaponry mod installed or you're familiar with it at all, you'll recognize this fella pretty quick.
Welcome.
If we go ahead and trade with him.
Let's see what you have.
Stand by for the grand opening.
And then we head down to his weapons and scroll for quite a while till we get to T. There he is selling the last word. Pretty cool. Now then, it is of course time to check out the different attachment variations over at the weapons workbench. Here we have a pretty standard version of the shotgun, but there's a whole lot of different options we could have thanks to the wonderful plethora of attachments that we do have available. So, let's go ahead and start off with the receiver section. We have standard up through advanced. Not going to waste your time. There's not a whole lot special going on there. But for barrels, we have the option for a sawed-off barrel, which pretty much removes any options for iron sights because it is essentially more reminiscent of the TF2 shotgun in this config. But as soon as you throw on a short barrel, you can see some barrel-mounted iron sights there. You also have a short ribbed barrel, which adds the ribbing and a front bead sight instead. And then the short shielded barrel, which gets rid of those rear sights but keeps the front posts from before. We also have long versions of each of these options, so you can have different lengths with the trade-offs that usually comes with. For stocks, we have the option for a sawed-off stock, of course. Can't really have a Renate 70 without that. We have the standard full stock, a gunslinger stock, which does mount shells to this guy, currently in red because we're using buckshot, but these will change color if you're using different types of ammunition. So if you change to slugs, they'll turn green, pulse slugs will turn a bluish purple, etc., etc. Then for marksman stock, we have the version with the checkering here on the grip as well as the raised comb, just like New Vegas. And then for the recoil compensating stock, we have a recreation of the Fallout 76 pump action stock that is available in that game. It's relatively loosely based on a mag pull, some people tend to say, but there's a version that's clearly made out of wood, has some really interesting grooves in it here, and doesn't look reminiscent of that too much to me besides the general profile, so I think it was a good addition to add to our mod. Now we also have the option for the magazine. Do you want buckshot shells, flechettes, dragon's breath, magnum buck, slugs, pulse slugs, rifled slugs, or plasma slugs? All do pretty simple stuff. They are pretty much self-explanatory. Dragon's breath is going to be incendiary, and pulse slug is going to help you with robots just like New Vegas. The coolest part about these, though, is that some of them do have custom projectiles. For our dragon's breath, rather than relying on our standard incendiary projectile that we have for the legendary effect, we actually made our own custom dragon's breath projectile, and that was a lot of fun to tinker around with. So it makes for a much more fiery explosion, and when you do shoot targets, the fire sticks on there for a little while with some actual particle emitters, so that's pretty fun. Same goes for the pulse slug. We have a brand new projectile for that looks super, super cool. And the plasma slug, I think, has the same situation. For sights, we have the option for iron sights or glow sights, which are going to utilize whichever sights you're already using on the barrels. Then we have the option to mount a hollow sight, which is our newly redesigned Bushnell. It is the same general model, but it does have some updated textures with some more detailing. We have our brand new reflex sight based on the old school Trigicon sight, one that you don't see a whole lot anymore, but I think fits really well with the profile of our weapons and the overall aesthetic of that 70s to 80s retro vibe. And to fit with that, we added a new sight, which is our dot sight. Similar to how we have a dot sight for our pistols, now we have them for our rifles. And this is, of course, the old school aim point, which has a really, really interesting profile. And believe it or not, we got this thing looking pretty good. It does not rely on see-through scopes whatsoever, yet it has a perfect picture when you look down it, it doesn't show off any of the tube whatsoever. Something I find most people have a lot of trouble with, but if you do a little bit of simple math, you can make for a pretty cool optic that works exactly as it should in real life. And for those of you who are strange, you may say, these weapons, these optics, they're too tactical for my Fallout, I don't like that. Well, this sight is actually now canon, so deal with that, why don't you? Now, we also have a built-in laser sight mounted on top because that's always just a whole lot of fun to have, which has our built-in laser aiming. We have the option for a short scope and a medium scope, as well as a night vision scope, which looks really cool on this thing. Maybe not in this particular configuration, but with the right stock, it definitely can. And then our brand new recon scope as well, something that gives you a bit of a pop of color. And I wanted something new for us to use for the recon style attachments. And of course, our very own thermal scope as well, which will now highlight enemies in a bright orange color on a green background. So it makes it really easy to find your targets at night or at day, whenever you decide to use this thing. We have options for muzzles, of course, with no muzzle, a compensator designed after the cuts compensator, a spiked muzzle brake for more bash damage, a duck-bill choke for tighter spread, a muzzle brake, and a suppressor. The duck-bill is going to function just kind of like a regular choke, but a duck-bill should, you know, make it more of a horizontal spread. We don't really know how to do that. I don't even know if that is possible without making your own custom projectile. Something we could look into in the future, but it is kind of a fun option. It makes for something that is visually distinct as an attachment, because if you were to throw on a regular choke, that would be hidden inside the barrel, and that'd be kind of boring. So this is just sort of a compromise between gameplay and style. I don't know why I went on this tangent. Anyways, let's move on. So we also have a material swap for wood or for plastic. So this is going to be global. Any attachments you put on will change from wood to plastic. It's the same way that we utilize the camo for the Dinner Bell unique, as well as for the CW unique. All of those have their own skins for every pump and every stock. Speaking of pumps, we do have a pump section, although I guess we're not there yet. Starting off with accessories, we have the option for no accessory. We have the extended tube, which gives you 3 more rounds, which takes you from 5 to 8. We have a side saddle here for faster reload speed, a flashlight here that is a functional flashlight, a laser here, which is different from the top laser. The top laser lets you aim, and this one is going to give you some nice hip fire accuracy, so you can actually hit shots without needing to aim, which is perfect for a shotgun. And of course, we have a VATS targeting module. For those of you who are VATS users, you'll get a nice little boost if you decide to equip this instead. Finally, we have the pump section. Don't know why it's so low on the list. These lists are kind of weird sometimes. This gives you the option for the standard pump, in quotes, which is more of the sort of retro style of 870 pump. The comfort pump is going to give you what you normally see on a modern-day Remington 870. The sharpshooter's pump gives you the longer version of said pump. Still a real-life pump, but it's the one that is used in Fallout New Vegas. And we just had to add a tactical pump. It was too cool not to, so here is a pump that has a built-in flashlight, which, by the way, is completely functional. If I equip this thing, it does work as a flashlight in-game. And yes, that means you can have 2 flashlights equipped at the same time if you use the accessory slot as well. But I'd recommend instead using the flashlight here and then a laser, so you can have both. That works pretty well as well. And you can, of course, do some cool stuff like throwing on this tactical pump, going over to the stock section, maybe throwing on the recoil compensating stock, and then heading over to the material section and switching over to plastic. And this gives you a shotgun that doesn't look a whole lot like the classic hunting shotgun, especially if you throw on something like, say, that, and maybe an accessory like the extended tube. Now we have a pretty tactical looking police-style shotgun. That, of course, though, is completely optional. You can have a retro hunting shotgun for as long as you want with classic wood furniture, but these upgrades are here for those people who do like stuff like this. I personally do. I think it is just retro enough to still fit in Fallout, and very teeters the line of that modern tactical aesthetic that we do see in a couple of Fallout guns, particularly weapons in Fallout 76, but the occasional New Vegas one too, like the Marksman Carbine. So, I think this has its place in Fallout, but definitely I will be sticking to more of the classic wood furniture most of the time. So yeah, guys, that is our hunting shotgun Remington 870 mod. If you want to try it out, it will be linked down in the description below. Once again, it is completely up to you what kind of shotgun you want to run in your game, but there is nothing wrong with more options. If you're a crazy person, you could even download all of them because not every gun is going to look identical, so, I mean, sure, why not? For those of you who have been using this mod already, I hope you guys have been enjoying it, and I hope those of you who are here today enjoyed this video. If you did, consider dropping the video a like, it really helps out the channel. And if you're looking for a more direct way to support my work, you can check me out over on Patreon. Whether it's the videos I make right here on YouTube or the mods I'm still making over on the Nexus, you can check me out on Patreon. It is the best way to support me directly. But of course, it is completely optional. Not something you should feel like you need to do, just there for those of you who are able to and willing to. You guys continuing to watch these videos and download these mods is perfectly enough support for me. The Patreon is just a nice little boost for those of you who are able to and want to contribute to my works. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed once again, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace!